Hello, my dear students. Today we would be discussing division of labor and formal versus informal organizations. So often you can get a short note on division of labor, or it can be asked as what are the various problems with division of labor, a related question. So let us see and go thoroughly with what exactly division of labor is. Now, according to the definition, what is division of labor? It is an economic concept which states that dividing the production process into different stages enables workers to focus on specific tasks. If workers can concentrate on one small aspect of production, this increases overall efficiency so long as there are sufficient volume and quantity produced. Now, this concept was popularized by Adam Smith in his famous study, that is an inquiry into nature and causes of the wealth of nations. So, he used an example of a pin factory. He noticed that how the efficiency of production was vastly increased because workers were split up and given different roles in the making of a pin. So there he saw that there was a clear cut advantage of specialization. Now if we actually go by what is division of labor, so it is breaking a process into group of tasks, right? So each of these tasks is assigned to a person or group of people. Now one worker is assigned only one task, so repeatedly when he'll do that job, and he'll become proficient in the same. So a division of labor leads to specialization. Now the concept of division of labor is very old, and it actually gained importance during the industrial revolution. So specialization or division of labor is building block of organizing and mass production. If we take an example here, let us say it's a ready-made garment, or let's say shirt making factory. So here one group of people would be responsible for cutting the cloth, the other one would be stitching it, and the third group is responsible for putting accessories like buttoning and all, and the fourth one will embroidery or would put the label on it, and the last group would fold and pack the clothes. So this is an example of division of labor where each person performs only one part of the process. And what is it going to lead to? It is going to lead to specialization. So it increases the efficiency and productivity. So like I told you, the proponents of classical economist Adam Smith is a classical economist, and then Marxist political economy like Karl Marx, and neoclassical economists like Alfred Marshall and Ellen Young, they all recognize the role of division of labor in enhancing the labor productivity and driving economic growth. Now, what are the benefits of division of labor? Of course, specialization. Then once the specialization comes in, then lower operating costs, increased productivity, higher profits, and it helps in inventions and creativity, then fosters cooperation. So all these are the benefits of division of labor. Why is the division of labor more efficient? Because workers need less training, as they only have to master a small number of tasks, right? And it is faster to use one particular tool and do one job. So no time is wasted with a worker dropping a tool and then picking up another. If somebody is cutting something, so he just keeps on cutting, so the knife he's holding, and the other one who's washing it in the water is just doing that. So if one person would have been doing it, he would pick up the knife, he would cut, then he would pick up the stuff, he would put it in water, wash it. So it is going to take time. So hence the time, the specialization you get, as well as there is cut down on the time. Workers can gain loyalty and a sense of achievement from their branch of production. Now there is no need to move around the factory, the half finished goods comes to them, right? So it is a product line that is happening, so they would not move but the product would move. Then workers can concentrate on those jobs which best suit their skills and temperament. Now, whatever they can do the best, they are doing that work, and hence there is efficiency. Then, when production has very high volumes, a division of labor is necessary to get economies of scale. Otherwise, you will not get economies of scale. Now, what are the potential problems of division of labor? It work If workers are highly specialized, then the job can become very boring, monotonous, and repetitive. Now, this can lead to low labor morale, right? Because you're doing the one thing again and again. You're not a machine. You need some change, something, So, Karl Marx also criticized division of labor by arguing that specialization leads to alienation, whereby the worker becomes depressed spiritually and physically. So, you have to take care of that aspect. Then next is, if worker lose the motivation to concentrate and do a job, mistakes may creep in as they get bored. So because of that monotony, their productivity may get affected. Then an assembly line could grind to a halt if there is a blockage in one particular area. So now, if because everybody is specialized, nobody knows another's business, if something happens to one unit, the entire product line gets halted. So this is a problem with the specialized assembly line structure. Adam Smith himself recognized this potential problem and advocated education of the workforce so that they wouldn't get too demoralized by their repetitive jobs, and alternate arrangements are set up so that people can take up each other's place or position if the need be. So, division of labor leads to mass production of standard goods, and customers demand variety of services and products, customization. Now, this becomes very difficult under this system of division of labor. Also, there is fear of obsolescence of skills. Since the worker is specialized in a particular task, if that task is made redundant through advancement in technology, he'll find difficult to get a job elsewhere, right? So this that is also one of the problems associated with this division of. Now, what are the examples of division of labor? Ford Motor Factories in 1920s. Henry Ford made use of assembly line to increase the productivity of producing motor cars. On the assembly line, there was a division of labor with workers concentrating on particular jobs. Now, food production. A very basic example of division of labor could be seen in food gatherings. In early societies, men would be hunters, women and children would prepare the food and collect berries. The idea was it was very simple division of labor to enable the best use of different skill sets. Nowadays, there is an even greater division of labor in food production. Farmers will buy seeds, fertilizers, and tractors from different companies. Then they'll just concentrate on one aspect of food production. The tools in food processing is handled by different workers and a different stage in the production cycle. Now, in the modern organizations, let's see the Apple products. So, designed in California, produced in China. This is what happens in our phones. A new iPhone has innumerable examples of division of labor. The process is split up into many different parts: design, hardware, software, manufacture, marketing, production, and assembly. So, this is how division of labor is happening even in these days. Now, globalization and division of labor. Now, globalization has enabled a division of labor according to the countries. For example, the developing world concentrates on the production of primary goods, right? So these involves low paid labor to do the labor intensive work for picking coffee beans, or let's say beans are then transported to developed countries where other workers process, package, and market the product. So this was an example of coffee beans. You can take an example of business process outsourcing also, that you get cheap labor for their back-end services. And where did they come? They came to the developing countries where in English speaking population was there, which was ready to give hefty number of hours because they are available. and hence they got cheap labor at these places. So division of labor is still there. You just have to identify in around you that where and in which companies it is happening and in what form. So this was about division of labor. Now we come to formal and informal organizations. What are formal organizations? We have discussed it in previous slides as well. But formally, if you ask me, the term formal organization, it means a structure that comes into existence when two or more people come together for a common purpose, and there is a legal and formal relationship between them. So, this is important. Now, the formation of such an organization is deliberate by the top level management. The organization has its own set of rules, regulations, and policies expressed in writing. So, it is a kind of a structure of formal or consciously coordinated relationships between two or more people working towards a common objective. Now, it is made up of official authority responsibility relationship, and it is a structure which is well defined, which has got well defined jobs, and each bearing a definitive measure of authority and responsibility, designed to enable the people to work most effectively together in accomplishing the objectives. It lays down the channels of communication, the pattern of relationships, the flow of authority and accountability, and the rules and procedures which individuals must follow. The formal pattern of human relationships is defined by means of, like I told you, rules, procedures, regulations. Now, so formal organizations, they facilitate the determination of policies, interpersonal communications, delegation of authority, and coordination of individual efforts. It also helps to ensure equitable treatment to people and job security. But it tends to be a little inflexible, and it requires conformity that restricts initiative and innovation. So, formal organizations require subordination of personal goals to organizational goals, right? So, every time you have to bring your individual goals down and put the organizational goals at a higher level. So, it does not take into account the sentiments and values of people, and it is the job of a manager to make the formal organization an effective instrument of accomplishing both organizational as well as individual goals. So, the basic objective of establishment of an organization is what? To achieve the goals, right? And for this purpose, the work is assigned, authorities are delegated to each member, and the concept of division of labor and specialization of workers is applied. So the work is assigned on the basis of their capabilities. Now, the job of each is fixed, and roles, responsibilities, authority, accountability associated with the job is clearly defined. Now, in addition to this, there exists a hierarchical structure which determines a logical authority relationship and follows a chain of command. Now, the communication between two members is only through planned channels. Now, types of formal organization structure. We have done them. What are these? Line staff, functional, project management, matrix. All these are formal organizational structures which we have already covered in the previous presentations. Now, definition of informal organization. You know, as we all understand, man is a social animal, and he wants social interactions, right? So wherever people work or live together, they form social relationships by becoming members of one or more informal groups. These informal groups are known as informal organizations, right? uh, so these are it's a shadow organization basically. So it is not the real organization, but it has a shadow of the organization. Now, informal organization is a natural or spontaneous network of personal and social relationships between individuals on the basis of that is formed on the basis of, let's say, friendship, emotion, values, attitudes, likes, dislikes, maybe interests, or maybe physical location, or let's say similarity of work, or religion, or affinity, or common time schedules. So wherever there is a common platform, the people tend to have informal organizations. Now these personal and social relations are not pre-planned or deliberate, so they just develop automatically through continuous interactions between people. So informal organization is all pervasive and is found at all levels of management. It is a natural or self grouping of people in the work environment, which depends upon the personalities of individuals. Or informal organization is a kind of pattern of interpersonal and intergroup relationships, and it gets developed within the formal organizations. Like I told you, it is a shadow organization, and it consists of small informal groups with their own status systems, behavioral patterns, beliefs, goals. Now the informal groups may overlap because an individual may be a member of more than one informal group, right? So these are the and these relationships may arise in several directions, maybe upward, downward, horizontally, diagonally. So it is all overlapped structure in informal organization, unlike the formal one. So, if we see, an informal organization is formed within the formal organization and is a system of interpersonal relationships between individuals working in an enterprise that forms a result of people meet, interact, and associate with one another. Now, the organization is created by the members spontaneously, that is, created out of socio psychological needs and urge of people to talk. Now, these organizations are featured by mutual aid, cooperation, and companionship among members. In an informal organization, there are no defined channels of communication, and so members can interact with other members freely. They work together in their individual capacities and not professional capacities. Now, what are the key differences between formal and informal organizations? Like we have seen, formal organizations, uh, the people have clearly defined goals, whose authority, whose responsibility, who is accountable, and it is all fixed. Whereas in informal organizations, there is a network of interpersonal relationships, how people interact with each other, and there is nothing fixed here. It goes with whims and fancies of people, right? So formal organizations are created deliberately by top management, whereas informal organizations are just formed spontaneously by the members. Now formal organizations aim at fulfilling organizations objectives, whereas informal ones are to satisfy their social and psychological needs. Now, formal organization is a permanent structure in nature and it continues for a long time. Whereas informal organization is can be temporary or can be more permanent than the permanent nature of organization. That people who were working together, who were colleagues, may remain colleagues for the entire life, even if the one who left the organization and joined some other organization, but they remain friends, they remain, closely knit. But in for the organization's perspective, we would be interested in the informal groups which are within their organization, right? Then the formal organization follows official communication. So there are channels of communications which are predefined, that communication will flow from top to bottom, etc. But in informal organizations, the communication can flow from any direction, right? In the formal organizations, the rules and regulations are supposed to be followed by every member, whereas in contrast, the informal communication, there are no norms. So there are norms, values, and beliefs, and the work uh, there is no control mechanism. Then in the formal organizations, the focus is on the performance of work, while in the case of informal organizations, interpersonal communication is given more emphasis. The size of formal organization keeps on increasing, whereas the size of informal organization is very small. In case of formal organizations, all the members are bound by hierarchical structures, but all the members of an informal organization are equal. Now we come to the differences on certain bases between formal and informal organizations. The first is about the meaning. As we have discussed it already, an organization type in which the job of each member is clearly defined, whose authority, responsibility, and accountability are fixed, is a formal organization. Whereas an organization formed within the formal organization as a network of interpersonal relationships when people interact with each other is known as informal communication. Now, creation, it is deliberately created by top management, whereas informal organizations are created spontaneously. Then, what is the purpose of formal organizations? Yes, to achieve the organizational goals, whereas the goal or the purpose of informal organization is to satisfy the social and psychological needs of the people themselves. The nature, it is stable, it continues for a long time. Informal is not stable. Then communication, there has to be official communication and communication channels, what we call informal organizations communication, that is grapevine. Now, control mechanism. So there are rules and regulations to control, whereas the control mechanisms in case of informal organizations are norms, values, and beliefs through which they would work and behave with each other. Then focus is on work performance. Here focus is on interpersonal relationships. Whose authority? Members are bound by hierarchical structures, whereas in informal organization all members are kind of equal. Then size. Formal organizations obviously are much larger in size than the informal organization. So it was in a tabular form that we have discussed formal and informal organizations. Conclusion. So an informal organization is just opposite of a formal organization. The principal difference between these two is that all members of formal organization follow a chain of command, which is not in the case of informal organizations. Moreover, there exists a superior subordinate relationship in formal, whereas such relationship is absent in the latter because all the members are equal. Now, having said that, why are we reading about informal organizations is because informal organizations are a necessary part, an unavoidable part of the organization structure, and they can affect the entire organization in many ways. So in case of informal organizations, the top management always wants to remain in contact with or in knowledge of what's going on in the informal groups, because that gives them a fair idea about what's going in the organization. So you know it it might so happen that informal organizations can be seen as a negative force in the work group, but it is not so. Why? Because if the interests and goals are integrated with the company, it will work for the company's objectives rather than against them. So it is the manager's responsibility to do whatever he can to integrate the two groups, and instead of clashing them. So that's how the effective management would work, and the overall result would be the informal organizations will help to get the work done, right? So we do not see informal organizations in bad taste. In fact, we can as a good manager can actually make them our tools to get the work done efficiently. So this was all about informal and formal organizations. Thank you so much.